studio engineer of the stars in Los Angeles, California, a Virginia Tech grad with a knowledge of recording studios unmatched in his field. He's a voice actor from Buffalo, New York, with 30 years experience in recording studios and behind the mic. He solves people's home voiceover studio problems in the blink of an eye. Together, there's no studio problem they can't solve, and they'll do it for you tonight. Welcome to East West Audio Body Shop. Now, live from a basement in Buffalo and an office in L.A., here are Dan Leonard and George Whittam.
Good evening. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we're East West Audio Body Shop. Well, we're here. Week number 7. Can you believe that we've been doing it this long, George?
No, I can't believe we managed to hang in here this long. And,
I know.
Without our spouses killing us.
Well, maybe yours. Mine's thrilled. What are you doing down there? We're doing a TV show, huh? Anyway, but boy, you talk about rain. I mean, I showed you on the radar before. It's been like, I mean, I'm not going to say it was raining a lot, but when I went out to get the paper this morning, I got photographed 3 times by Jean-Michel Cousteau. It was that wet out there. You know, Bob Ballard was standing right behind him. So, but anyway, enough of the weather. It's stopped. The rain has finally stopped, and Buffalo hasn't washed away. And
we had 0.07 inches of rain last night.
Wow. So anyway, we're here to help solve your home studio, your home voiceover studio issues. And if you want to get on our show, the address to email to is ewabshop@gmail.com, and we'll take a look at your question. And if we think it's show-worthy, we'll bring you on, and we'll talk about it. And we also want to, maybe if you have a question, just something about the general voiceover industry in general, we're always happy to discuss those, a little bit from the technical end, a little bit from the social end, a little bit from the business end. And we'll be getting, other guests on that'll be talking about these things. Because remember, it's not just technical. There are 3 major disciplines to voiceover, and that is, of course, you have to be a good voice actor, which is a discipline in itself. You have to know how to run a business. And then you got the stuff that George and I talk about all the time, and that is home studio tech. And it's really not all that technical, but we want to make it easy for you. We want you to be comfortable with what you do. And later on, we're going to talk to somebody who's going to make you feel very comfortable about home studios. And that's our very, very special guest, the amazing Beau Weaver. He'll be on in about 20 minutes or so. But you don't want to leave because we got more stuff to talk about. Like, do we have our first caller on?
We certainly do.
Good evening, East West Audio Body Shop. Who's on?
This is Casey Katie.
Casey, how you doing tonight? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Greenville, South Carolina.
All right. And
beautiful part of the country.
That is a gorgeous part of the country, actually.
It is. It really is.
And in Greenville's that's like right in the mountains near Raleigh and stuff like that?
Yeah, we're in South Carolina. We're at the foothills of the mountains, close to the beach.
Right.
So
beautiful. It's like being in California, only in reverse.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What's going on with you, Casey? What can we help you with tonight?
Oh, actually, my question was, I had spoken with you. I get noise and hum, and I use Adobe Audition. And when I do noise reduction profile, and I select the file and do the noise reduction, I then get phase. And my question was, how do I get rid of that?
It's not really phase, and I've been using. I used to use that tool too. What you're doing is you're taking a small sample out of your audio in some silence where you have a little bit of noise where your voice isn't, and then you apply it to the entire file to remove that, right?
Exactly.
Okay, that's not a great way to go about it. Because you've got to know exactly how much to take out, and you don't want to take a whole swath of silence because you're actually sampling a lot of stuff in a lot of different frequencies. And if you take too wide a swath, what actually happens is you start to remove parts of your voice. So it's not actually phasing what you're hearing; it's actually undersampling. It's removing some of the digital bits out of your audio stream, and that includes your voice. So what George and I like to talk about is using a noise gate to try and get rid of that stuff. But primarily, the best thing to do is to try and physically remove it. And George, how do you physically remove? What causes these buzzes, and how do you try to get rid of that?
Well, it could be electrical. It could be a number of things that's causing the buzzes. Do you have a lot of gear in your studio? I mean, would you call your setup simple or somewhat complicated?
It's simple. Yeah, I've got a Dell tower, and of course the fan's running and things like that. But I try to isolate that.
Well, the thing about buzzes, people will say, "I have a buzz." And that can mean a million different things.
That could mean a lot of things.
Is it hum? Is it a white noise? Is it a buzzing noise? Is it high frequency? Is it mid frequency? It could be a lot. There's a lot of different things. It's really hard to differentiate what type of buzz it is. But is it really literally like a buzz?
No, not so much. It's pretty subtle, and it's more background. But
it's more of a hum, like a. Can you make the sound?
Oh, that
so it's
sound,
a hum,
of course.
Yeah, more of a hum.
That's a hum, yeah. And that could be at 60 or 120 hertz. So
I've used the feature remove 60 hertz hum, and I'm getting better results since I've started using the MicPort Pro. But still, I've got some. I've been working with Diane Merritt locally here, and she's been helping me with that. But
okay, well, I mean, it could be electrical or it could be environmental. So it's either coming from within your computer audio interface setup, or it's coming from the room, and something in the room is generating that sound. Are you only hearing it during playback, or do you hear it when
pretty much? Yeah, just during the playback, right?
What kind of a mic? What kind of a mic are you using?
I've got a AT2020 USB. And since it's not compatible with the MicPort Pro, I've been using a SM57 with the MicPort Pro.
Okay, well, the SM57 is not your optimum voiceover mic.
Exactly.
And because it's a dynamic mic, it tends to, you'd agree with this, it tends to take some of the interference that you might have in a room from fluorescent lights or electrical fields in your house and stuff like that, where a condenser mic is going to be a lot more quiet. So, if you've got the 2020 USB, learn how to use it, because actually that's what I'm talking to you on right now.
Really?
Yeah. So it can sound fabulous. It's a great little mic for the price, and for really learning the basics of how to use a condenser microphone. You can't beat it. It's the price is right. The audio on it is good. It's a heavy duty microphone, and it works really well. But an SM57 is primarily a stage mic. And I know there's a lot of guys out there, they're like, oh, you can make it emulate anything. But it's not the best. It's good for getting rid of, the side noise. If you've got, noise in the room, it's good at isolating just your voice, like a shotgun mic would do. But primarily, you want to stick with the condenser microphone. So what's causing those buzzes? Wasn't there something that we found, George, with using like those little gray things, those adapters that you find in your kitchen drawer?
Oh, yeah, the cheaters, I call them, or the ground lift adapters, or they've called it ground adapters. They're called a couple different things. But, those little dollar items that let you plug a three-prong plug into. Sometimes the noise you're describing sometimes it's being caused by the computer or your computer's monitor itself. So you can try plugging this thing in at different places in your studio. Just try it here, then try it there, then try it there. And it's amazing how many times, and it's not always the same thing. Sometimes it's the monitor, sometimes it's something else in the audio chain. But it's amazing how often something so cheap and simple actually can fix a problem like that. So that's worth playing around with before you go, say, buy some sort of expensive Monster Power conditioner box or something like that.
Unless you find one at a garage sale or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, true. But I would start with a simple thing like that. Just start with the simplest thing to try, and just try ground lifting different devices, because it's probably a ground loop.
Okay, very possibly.
Yeah. I would say that's very likely.
That's a very common problem, actually. We hear that a lot. There's a buzz. And and then there, as we said, there's a number of causes, so you have to go through the process of elimination and see what actually solves it. And sometimes it goes away by itself, which is even weirder.
Well, that's what's the most frustrating. It also could be. Do you know for a fact that the hum or buzz you're hearing is in the actual MP3 you're sending to people as well, or do you think it's just in the playback?
It might just be in your headphones or in your playback.
No, I don't know. I don't hear it so much in the MP3s that I send. More so in the playback.
Okay, because that's
Interesting.
that's an issue that happens too, where you have more noise in the background on playback than you do on the recording, which is a good thing. You want to make sure that the recording is the cleanest sounding. But
Right.
you might, after the show, you might want to drop a file. You can send us a file to ewebshop@gmail.com, and we'll take a real quick listen to it and see if it's really obvious where the root of the issue is. But I would start with the ground lifting and try that at anywhere you have a place to plug one of those in. Just try it at each location individually and see if it goes away.
Fantastic.
All right.
All right, gentlemen.
Well, that was informative. Even I learned stuff.
Thanks for coming on. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much. It was an honor.
Take care.
All right. Good luck,
Okay.
Kevin.
Thank you.
All righty. So, one problem down for today. We've got a lot more coming up. We've got another caller coming up in just a couple of minutes. We've got Beau Weaver. You want to make sure you stand by for that. We've got another caller after that, and we have bad audio of the week that you won't believe. Well, you might believe it, but it's also very, very different. But we'll have another caller in just a couple of minutes, and Beau Weaver after that, and we'll be right back after this. So stay tuned. World of voiceover, whether you've got years of experience or you're a newbie, having a home studio is essential. A home studio is a unique environment. Every voice is different, every room is different. Advice from friends is great, but you need someone with the experience of setting up hundreds of home voiceover studios. I'm Dan Leonard, the home studio master. Let me show you the best place in your home to set up, the right equipment, and how to properly use recording software. Plus, I troubleshoot your home studio nightmares. Wherever in the world you are, having a home studio is essential, but that doesn't mean you have to be a recording engineer. Let me show you how easy it is. Go to homestudiomaster.com or email me at homestudiomaster@verizon.net. I guarantee results. In the modern world of voiceover, well, hopefully you didn't fall asleep out there. You know, it's still absolutely amazing that we can even pull this off, that we're doing a nationwide TV show. And if you only knew what George is doing on the other end. I'm sitting here in my basement in Buffalo, just calmly waiting around, and George is like, this thing's got to go over here. I mean, come on now.
I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different windows right now, 10 different computer screens, and windows in my computer screen, over two 24-inch monitors. So it really feels like I'm flying the space shuttle here.
Yeah, really. And we had to take a bucket of water and pour it on one of those computers because there's probably smoke coming out of it all.
Well, actually, I switched from the MacBook Pro that I was using for 4 years to a newer iMac that's got a little more CPU and a lot more GPU, a lot more graphics power. So I'm hoping that's going to help things. So anyway, enough of that stuff.
Yeah, well, you don't want to hear about that.
You don't want to hear
stuff.
about how we do things.
Yeah, it's amazing that we get it done. And, like you always say, you don't want to see how the sausage is made.
Well, we promise. We have had some requests to explain how we pull off the show. And I think we might have a special, maybe show 10 or 11, where we actually talk about how we actually pull this off. So
that'll be fun. Can't wait to see that myself. All righty. Well, we've got another caller coming on right now. Good evening. And you're on East West Audio Body Shop. Who's calling?
This is Anna from Pasadena.
Ooh, Pasadena. Good evening. How are you tonight?
Doing great. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're certainly trying hard.
Do we get an A for effort?
A++.
All right. Well, at least you do. So, what brings you to our abode this evening?
I have a question about mouth noise. I've been told the old green apple trick, the don't drink coffee, on and on and on. Don't eat at all before a big session. But I'm wondering, are there any technology tricks that you might recommend?
Technology tricks. Well, yeah, I mean, the technology tricks are various. Now, I like to use Adobe Sound Booth, and now it's transitioning into Adobe CS5, which I have a feeling Beau's going to have a few opinions about when we get him on in a couple of minutes. But there's a feature in there. This is just one thing where you can go in and do what's called an auto heal. And you go through looking at a spectrograph, and you can see each individual little spike and little click and stuff like that is in there, and you can physically erase it out. And it's very, very effective. But George discovered this great thing a couple of weeks ago, and I've actually been screwing around with it, and it works really well. That's called click repair. How did you find that? And I'm still trying to figure out the exact settings on it. But
yeah, it's kind of it looks like, software made by some guy. And, it's not like some
guy,
not like made by a team of high-paid computer experts. It doesn't have a flashy user interface or anything. But I think it also it's kind of like Adobe. No, I'm sorry, not Adobe. It's kind of like Audacity. It has that kind of plain interface, and it runs on Mac, Windows, I think, and Linux, whatever. But I did some searching around, Googling, and just to see if I could find a better way to remove mouth noises. That was a request of a client of mine. And this declicker, I can't remember the name of it right now. What did I say it was?
Click repair. Click repair,
yeah. The icon looks like a record. I mean, a picture of an LP, because they obviously designed it for removing.
That's what it was designed for, yeah.
Record clicks. But it also can do a pretty good job of taking out the occasional mouth smack, It has to be things that have a very short transient, like a snapping sound, like that kind of thing. It'll do a pretty good job of removing those kinds of noises. I think it's only like $40, and you can download and play with it for free. The only thing that's weird is it's not a plug-in, so you have to record and edit and do everything.
That was my next question.
Yeah, and then you have to open it up in that program and do that process, and then send the file off. So it makes it kind of a multi-step process. But if you've got a lot of mouth sounds and it's taking you a long time to edit these all out, it's at least worth a try to remove those sounds. And I'll put that in our show notes from this week. I'll have a link to it, so you'll know where to find it.
Yeah, I've been using it. I'm working on a book right now, on an audio book, and if you're doing long format narration and you have a lot of mouth noise, it's a real pain in the butt. And, that can take like an extra hour if you're going to take all that stuff out, which is probably why you're asking us this.
Yeah, exactly.
And I use this click repair, and I'm starting to learn the subtleties to it. And it has to run through the entire cycle of the actual file itself. So if you want to take the noises out, it's going to take the length of that actual file for it to run, because it does it in real time. But there are like 3 modes. You can listen to what it sounds like on the input. You can listen to what it sounds like on the output, and then you can click the one that says noise, and you hear that's just taking everything out of it, which is actually kind of cool. And the end result is not like the kind of stuff you get like as we were talking about with Casey in the last segment, where it does, you get undersampling and digital removal and stuff like that. This sounds much clearer and cleaner. And since I started using it, which means I must have had a real bad clicking problem. A client of mine was saying, "God, that sounds good." And, so it's one of the last things I do. I mean, I go through a number of step processes. Some people like to batch their processing. I usually do that when I know it's about ready to go, and then I don't want to deal with editing all that stuff out, and that takes it out, and it's very nice and clean. So, but
Great.
There are other solutions. I mean, now, do you find that you have mouth clicking after you eat certain foods, or is it just a general thing? And what
it's
do you
a general thing. I end up having to keep a bottle of water with me in the booth and just constantly sip to get rid of it. It doesn't matter what I eat. It's there on a regular basis.
Yeah, I just noticed that Beau Weaver's on the chat room, actually, and he said that room temperature water switched in the mouth, that's something that he tries.
Aha.
Room temperature, not cold.
Yeah. Now I found some other things, and because there's a somebody once told me, never eat spicy food if you're going to be doing a session. Well, I'm always doing a session, and I always eat spicy food. There's a legendary taco place around the corner from me here called Mighty Taco, and anybody from Buffalo knows what I'm talking about. And I usually run there for lunch, and sometimes all that salt is going to cause that kind of stuff. And I try to drink a lot of water. I'm finding, carbonated water doesn't help a whole lot. And then I saw on one of the forums a couple months ago, somebody recommended this stuff called Alkalol. If you can see that, it's not very expensive. It's a natural soothing nasal wash. It's got all sorts of stuff in it: purified water, menthol, eucalyptol, thymol, camphor, benzoin oils. Anyway, what I did is I took this stuff. Excuse me, I just got to grab this other thing over here. And I took a chloroseptic bottle, rinsed it out really well. It's nothing like a numb mouth when you're trying to voice stuff. And I diluted it like 4-to-1. And I give it a couple of sprays, spit it out in my garbage can, and I'm good for at least an hour of doing some long format stuff. And it has reduced those mouth clicks and tics considerably. So
interesting.
if you can get rid of it from the source, I'm a big believer in trying to remove problem noises physically, so you don't have to try and remove them electronically. And
yes.
So that's the best way to go about it. But if you can't, that's a good way to try it. Another noise that people get, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there. How many of you out there? Let me show your hands. How many of you get nose thumping when you breathe in at the end of a word and you hear boom, and you can see it? You can't really see it on a waveform. You can see it on a spectrogram. But some people, it's more pronounced than others. And I'm like, what on earth is causing that?
Actually, I have a client who just asked me the other day about how to get rid of a sound. And it's not like something I've heard before. And she's asking me how to remove it. And it sounds like it's her something in her nasal cavity, closing, and it's mid-word. I mean, it's really difficult. You can't edit it out. I said, I don't know how to edit that out. I told her,
you can get rid of it with the heal thing, with the auto heal on a spectrogram, because it shows up real clearly there. But I have a good friend who's an otolaryngologist, and if you're a voice actor, having a good friend who's an otolaryngologist is a very good thing. Because I said, hey, my nose makes a lot of noise and stuff, and he's like looking at it and he says, well, Well, you got somewhat of a deviated septum, and what's going on is as air is going through your nose in and out, it's actually breaking the sound barrier, and that's what's causing that thump.
What?
Sort of like a crack of a whip. I'm not sure if he's right, but he is a world-renowned otolaryngologist, so
That's wild.
I don't know where I find this stuff, and this guy wants to do voice work too, and I'm like, well, the nose business not paying very well right now. Don't go into voiceover. But anyway, so I would say, Anna, that the best thing to try to do is try to get rid of it physically. Try a couple of these remedies, see what works best for you. And if you still have some other little, a little bit of residual stuff, try this click repair thing. I think once we tune that thing in, that's a real helpful little tool to have.
Oh, thanks. I'll give it a shot.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks,
Thank
Anna.
you.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's a great question. Everybody's been calling saying, how do you set up a home studio on the road? That's all people have been talking about. There's a good question. And again, if you've got a question for us here on East West Audio Body Shop, just write to us at ewebshop@gmail.com. If you've got a good question, it doesn't necessarily have to be a tech question. It could be a business question or something along those lines, and we'll be happy to discuss it here. We maybe want to open up the show a little bit more and make it more of a talk show about voiceover as much as it is about voiceover tech. But voiceover tech is the main thing that we talk about. And speaking of tech, our guest coming up in just a couple of minutes, Beau Weaver, is going to be here, an absolute master of home studios because he was doing it long before any of us were doing it. And
he's a real pioneer when it comes to
He really, really is. And he's going to tell us a little bit about what he thinks is important in a home studio. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with that and, of course, bad audio of the week. Somebody's telling me that I'm a little bit out of sync. So if that's a problem for you, just, watch my lips and then just try to, adjust it back. Well, we're back here on East West Audio Body Shop. Dan Leonard here in Buffalo in the East, George Whittam out there in the West, doing our best to try and hold this thing together. Again, it's
with
amazing.
Glue, spitballs, duct tape, and I don't know what else.
And maybe spray some of this stuff on there. Maybe that'll help. Anyway, it's time for our special guest. We're so lucky to get some of the greatest people in the voiceover business to join us here on Sunday nights in East West Audio Body Shop. And we are exceedingly proud to have this gentleman because like Harlan last week, we're not worthy to be in the same room with this guy when it comes to voiceover stuff, and that is Beau Weaver. Beau, welcome to the show.
Hey, let me get in.
He's rushing in there.
He's in the can.
Here, you guys.
I didn't give him a lot of headroom there. I was like,
Are you hear me okay, guys?
yeah, you sound
we hear you
good.
fine. So, welcome to our show.
I've been listening, and it was cool. I recognized the voice of Anna Lux, one of my favorite L.A. voice actor chicks.
Right on.
She is absolutely the coolest, by the way.
She is very cool.
I can't.
Yeah, and let me speak to that thing that she was asking about mouth noise. It's really, most of the time, it's just nervousness. And I was told early on when I first started learning about voiceover, they said, if you make mouth noise, learn to hear it. Learn to hear it before the producer hears it, so that you can say, I think I'm making a little mouth noise. Can I go out and get some water? And usually the room temperature water just swished around in the mouth. Now, you can spit it out or swallow it, whatever you want to do, but that usually will do it for most people.
That's a very simple trick that doesn't require going out and buying some random product.
Yeah, really. It tends to
Well, there are some people, guys, that have, I don't know, they say don't eat this food, don't eat cheese, don't drink milk, don't drink coffee, don't do alcohol, don't do, and you got to use these teas and these sprays. And, if that's what they got to do, fine. I have never had to do any of that. I just walk in the booth and do the work,
That's the way it should be. I mean, most of my clients that have been doing this for a very, very long time, it seems they almost never have to rely on some device or some special water technique unless they're sick. So I guess some of it comes with experience.
It is a matter of tension, and if you relax and you don't try to overemphasize words, it generally doesn't happen. But Beau, now you came out of radio. And
I did, but a very long time ago.
Me too.
I did radio for a long time, and I had gotten to what at the time was probably the top station in the country, KHJ in Los Angeles, and we were the #1 station in LA back when the AM stations ruled. And that's where I discovered voiceover by accident. Dave Sebastian Williams, who runs the very excellent website called everythingvo.com.
Oh, yes.
He was one night, back then we had engineers, you couldn't touch the equipment. And he was in one of the production studios, and he was late at night, and I ducked my head in, and he was running the equipment. And I said, oh, my God, you're going to get in so much trouble for this. What are you doing? He said, close the door. I'm making copies of my voiceover demo. And I said, voiceover demo? What's that? And he proceeded to tell me. And I had no idea about that aspect of the business. And he said, do you know how much money you can make doing this? And I said, no. And he told me. And I said, I got to get one of those things. And he said, here's the thing. They don't like radio guys. I said, what are you talking about? We're in the top station in the country. Yeah, but they think that we have a certain sound that they don't like. And you have to learn to get rid of it. He said, but there's a kind of a therapy for that. And there was the woman who in the 60s and 70s was the female superstar of voice acting, a woman named Joan Gerber. Had a voice actors workshop in her living room. And she and Michael Bell, the great Michael Bell, had this little workout group. And Dave said, I'm going to it on Wednesday nights, and you can come if you want. So I went to her workshop, and for some reason, I did not get hooked on my ego. See, a lot of the radio guys say, what are you talking about? I'm in the top station in L.A., baby.
That's right.
Yeah, baby, they should be coming to me. And I saw that there was an actor's approach to commercials that was very different from what a radio guy does. And instead of, having my ego hooked, I'm very grateful for this, and I don't know why, I was challenged by it. And I said, I want to learn that. So I found a couple of other actors' workshops for commercials, and I learned the actor's approach. But I first had to unlearn everything I knew. Here's the problem for radio guys. A lot of guys who are in radio. The business has changed a lot. They find that they are underemployed or unemployed, and they say, okay, I think I'll be a voiceover guy. And they, I have to say, well, I know it seems like the same thing you've done all your life, but it's not. They say, what are you talking about? I've been cutting spots since I was 15 years old. Well, yeah, and this is not cutting spots. What are you talking about? It's copy, it's a microphone, it's commercials. Come on down to Ace Ford, $29.95. No, it's not that. It is not that. It is a completely different process. Well, I learned that process and have focused only on voiceover since the early 80s, and I've had the great fortune to be able to work in practically every venue there is in this business. I've done animated cartoons. I was the voice of Superman for Hanna-Barbera and Ruby Spears. I did Fantastic Four, was Reed Richards. I've done promos for all the networks. I do trailers for films. I have cable network documentary series, commercials, regional and national. I've been able to do practically everything there is in this business, and I have a lot of sympathy for the guys who come out of radio who are not in the major markets like New York or LA or Chicago, where there are good workout groups where they can get practice doing this other style, learning the actor's approach to commercials. It's tough to do. But one of the things that I would say to people is they need to not set their home studio up like a radio station.
Good point.
If you are sitting in front of a little mixer and a monitor with a microphone on a boom, you are a radio guy, and your process is the radio process. Voice actors work in a studio by themselves with a microphone only. And in order to work like an actor, you have to stand. You cannot sit in front of, you can't breathe correctly. And you cannot watch a monitor while you record, because if you are looking at a waveform on a monitor while you're reading, and I know you say, well, what are you talking about? I've been doing this since I, did Afternoon Drive on Pro FM. Yeah, exactly. And you're going to continue to sound like that. One of the things a radio guy does is he is multitasking. He is producing himself while he is performing. Watching, he's mixing, he's anticipating the next element, he's timing in his head, and he's watching the waveform. You cannot be in the moment as a performer if you are doing all of those things. So mixing, and the other thing, using headphones. If you are using headphones while you record, you are listening to yourself and judging your performance as you are performing, and you are not in the moment as a performer. And I'm not saying you can't do I'm not saying you can't do a good performance. You might be able to, but it is going to be almost impossible for you to get out of the radio style. The other thing is that a lot of guys who are working with home studio equipment become dependent on editing. They have a 60-second script, and they record phrase and line at a time. You cannot get a coherent performance working that way. You need to learn, if you have a 60-second script, to do a complete performance top to bottom. Now, if you're doing the editing or the client is doing the editing, they may indeed take pieces from individual takes, but you need to be able to perform from beginning to end. So it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a build, and you're gonna perform like a radio guy if you are doing line and phrase at a time.
Yeah, well, 'cause we used
and
to
that's
all do
very
timers
bad
and
news
stuff.
for if you're a radio guy, because this is the comfort zone you have. This is how you know how to operate, and to learn to operate differently will be very, very uncomfortable.
So you're on the
The
same
other
page
thing
with me, Beau.
in this same category, and then I'll let you guys make comments.
Sure.
Is most of the guys who have a broadcast background have become addicted to listening to processing. They cannot work unless they are hearing this extremely processed audio in their cans.
Exactly.
And you got to learn to work without that and without cans. You know, I mean, sometimes you may have to use cans because you've got phone patch, but you've got to learn to be able to do it without, because you create a feedback loop where you're listening to yourself through the processing and adjusting your, you know, and it's all your attention is in your vocal thing. You know, try to get the vocal thing to do, you know, and a voice actor's work is not with his voice. It's with intention. It's with a point of view. It's with attitude and emotion, not with the voice. You're not even your voice is just doing whatever your voice is doing that day. Are you a little more resonant today than yesterday? Maybe. You know, who cares? This is just how your voice is today. You're not making your voice do this thing or that thing, unless you're doing some wild character thing, which is a different deal.
Right.
But the technology, you know, if it's set up like a radio station, it's going to keep you sounding like a radio guy. And so the thing I harp on all the time is set up a home studio so that the technology disappears, so that you're not interacting with the technology while you're performing. You're just performing.
Oh, that is music to my ears. You know, I tell people that all the time, and so many people are just, like you said, they're hooked on this sound, which, you know, I think it's stuck in their heads from their dorm speakers or from their car stereo in the mid-'70s.
Sure.
And
you grow up with radio, you grow up with listening to these things, and that's your frame of reference. And so many people tell me after they do their audition recording, they say, it just doesn't sound like what I'm hearing. And I'm like, where are you hearing? Like on the radio? Right. And don't use that as a frame of reference. It really throws you off.
Yeah, because most of what we do isn't on the radio anyway. Now, Beau, you do a lot of stuff for broadcast, for network commercials and promos and stuff. But the majority of work that most of the people who are probably our viewers tonight do, long format, medium format stuff that is not broadcast material. It's going over the internet. It's being played over little speakers and stuff like that. And to try and sound like you're a radio announcer, that's not what people are looking for. And people wonder, why am I not getting work? Well, because you're not doing all those things that you were saying. And perhaps you're over-processing your voice. I mean, there's little bits of processing that you need to do, a little bit of compression. You want to make sure you're not over-modulated and things like that. But if you got it right at the start, if you got a nice clean signal, you're doing all right.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, there's people say, and I've seen this in the forums, and I think Dan and I both have gotten a little bit of a flame war about the subject of how can you engineer and be a voice actor at the same time? And I say no. And if people tell me all the time,
I say no also. Yeah. And if you are, like I say, you have not distinguished that there's a thing called being in the moment as a performer. You know, because if you were thinking ahead and watching a waveform, and again, it's an amazing skill that broadcasters have learned. They've learned to do 5 things at once and think ahead while they're performing. It's amazing.
It's very hard to do. I'm kind of learning how to do it literally on the job.
Exactly.
As I'm doing this show.
You're getting a taste of it right now, George.
Very hard.
Yeah.
But it'll kill you as a voice
record.
actor. It'll kill you and take you out of the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I do is I have 2 studios, and both of them are set up. So I start record, and I walk into the booth, and I can see through a window, just make sure the thing is running, and I do the session. And for some clients, I do some rudimentary editing and send it to them. But mostly, I just send them the session, the complete beginning to end session, and
let
what
them
they
do
do
that.
to it on their end is post-production is their choice, not mine.
Wow. Well,
Now,
that's great to hear. Those are all important things that I think a lot of people need to understand. There's a lot of people getting into voiceover who aren't in radio and probably don't even understand what we're talking about here. But there's a lot of people that were. But you want to stick around with us for a while, Beau, because and be with us in our next segment,
Sure.
because we got bad audio of the week coming up, and you're going to love this.
Absolutely. If you like, I will drone on about this all night.
Okay. Well, we don't have to drone about it, but we do have another caller coming up in just a couple of minutes. And Beau, thanks for being with us.
Sure, you bet.
Thanks,
All
Beau.
righty.
Take care,
So
man.
stand by. Okay. Well, we'll be right back with our next caller and bad audio of the week right here on East West Audio Body Shop.
Resource Center 24/7. Hundreds, probably thousands of free how-to articles for voiceover success, ranging from home studio to voice acting to business. A free voiceover industry directory, calendar of industry events, resource links, a store, and much more. Bi-monthly webinars on all topics of voiceover, free subscriptions to newsletters, reports, announcements, daily news, and features at voiceoverextra.com. VoiceOver Extra, the voiceover industry's online news.
Hey everybody, we're back. I just wanted to tag something onto the end of the VoiceOver Extra spot there. I'm doing a workshop this week coming up on Tuesday and Thursday, and it's about Pro Tools. And a lot of people know that I have my thoughts on Pro Tools, but there's still a lot of people out there that need to use it. They just are comfortable with it, or they just feel like they want to learn this tool. So we provided a webinar with John Florian and VoiceOver Extra. So if you're interested in doing it, it's Tuesday and Thursday night. Tuesday is the beginner class, which really is for starting out. And the Thursday class is the advanced class, which will take you more into multi-track styles of editing, using effects in real time, things like that. So if you're interested, go to voiceoverextra.com. And on the right-hand side of the screen, there's on the right column, you'll see there's a list of things going on. One of them says sponsored links, and it says Learn Pro Tools Basics and Advanced George Whittam webinars. Click on that link and you can sign up, and there's still plenty of spaces available. And if you can't make it for the live webinar, it'll be available later on for a replay. So I hope you can join in, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. So thanks for the plug, and let's get back to our regularly scheduled program.
Well, no, that's part of our scheduled programming, though. That's part of what we're doing here. You know, I mean, part of what we want to do with the show is shameless promotion. We're here. We're both professional consultants. We want you to know that we're here. We're here to serve you and my dog, too. We want to make sure that you have the best possible audio. And Beau was really touching on some great stuff there. And I wrote an article yesterday, and it basically mirrored everything that he just said about what makes good audio and what are the rules that you really need to follow about it. So make sure you read my article later this week in VoiceOver Extra, and you'll see that I wrote this before we even talked to Beau. But anyway, so we've got another caller coming up in bad audio of the week. Do we have our next caller on there, George?
Yeah, he should be standing by right now.
Okay. We know he's there.
He's there.
Okay.
Hello.
All right. It's East West Audio Body Shop. Who's calling?
That's your cue.
Yeah, that's your
Peter.
cue. You can go on now.
I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Who's calling?
I seem to be on a serious delay, so let me turn this down, and I'll just listen to the headphones.
Don't watch the show.
Yeah, you can't listen to the show, guys. This is like radio. This is really like radio.
I don't. I never watch the show.
Oh, okay, good. Good thing. It's just a really bad delay, huh?
Yeah. So who's calling and now is in sync with us?
It really is. It's like 20 seconds, and you guys are not even in my headphones. So how are you guys?
We're
great.
doing
Who's
well.
calling?
Let's go right into your question. Since the delay is so bad, we don't want to make it any harder for you than it already is.
All right, sorry. Quick question is this. If you were to recommend a great USB mixer for your clients right now, in any price range, you can go from maybe 200 to 400, 400 to 600, and 600 and higher. What would you recommend?
Okay, I'll go first with that one. If you need a basic USB mixer, so you want to have a mixer that has a USB built in that can then be used to interface with a phone patch or something. Is that the goal of using the mixer here?
Yeah, it could be that, or just to have a better preamp for your system built into the mixer.
Okay,
not an expensive preamp, but just a preamp nonetheless.
Sure. The least expensive USB-based mixer that I can actually recommend wholeheartedly is by Allen and Heath, and it's called the Z10. Has built-in USB, and they make one with effects, but you don't need the effects version. Just get the basic one. I think it's about $300. Has really good sounding electronics, good sounding preamps. It's got all the right features. Really nice little box. I really like it a lot. If you want to go to FireWire, the Mackie Onyx 820i is a really great one. I love the 820i because the FireWire gives you more inputs and outputs to work with. It's more flexible and does a lot of things that the USB mixers can't do, because the USB mixers are just sending a stereo track out to the computer and then taking a stereo track from the computer back into the mixer, and they're not very flexible in the way that you can route them. So when you're trying to do things like Skype and playback audio that you've recorded into Skype and do a lot of fancy tricks like that, which is kind of why you're getting a mixer, the USB mixers tend to kind of really tie your hands, and they don't give you the flexibility. Whereas like the 820i by Mackie, which is FireWire, has 8 outputs and 8 inputs. So it gives you much more flexibility and really can do everything you need. And that one's about $400. Very reasonable. It's definitely the least expensive FireWire mixer that I know that has really good quality sound built, great sounding preamps. And the Onyx preamps are known to be one of the best built into any affordable console out there. So that's my 2 cents on that. I mean, you can go bigger. There's the bigger Onyx console, the 1220, the 1640, if you need a lot more inputs. But,
what are you
they're all
mixing,
overkill. The 820i is all you need.
Yeah, but what are you mixing? I understand, if you've got a phone patch or you're going into ISDN. I'm not a big believer in having a big sophisticated mixer myself. I've got my little 4-channel Yamaha here, but I don't use it. I only use it if I'm actually live and I'm sending multiple sources at once. But I find generally that, of course, you're talking about a USB mixer, so it's going directly in there. I find that a lot of people who say, I've got to have a mixer, it tends to add a lot of analog noise, so you've got to have a good one, and that's why the ones you were recommending are the best ones to have. But you don't want something with trillions and trillions and trillions of inputs and all those other things, because you want to have as clean a signal into your computer as possible. So those USB ones are probably the best thing to use, because it is the most versatile. That help you out?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thanks for calling.
No problem.
Take care, Peter.
Have a good night.
Guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, it's that time of the week again. But before we do that, you got that one queued, our bad audio queued up there, George?
I definitely do.
Okay, but before we do that, I need to thank somebody. People tend to send me stuff. Please don't stop sending it. For some reason, people like to send me mustache stuff. I'm not exactly sure why that is.
Is this thing on?
And now it's time for another exciting episode of...
So if you find mustache stuff, Dan's taking it. It'll be something well worth it. Anyway.
Awesome. You ready for Bad Audio of the Week?
It's time for Bad Audio of the Week.
Bad Audio of the Week.
Fantastic.
All right. Now I'm not making fun of anybody with this one. This is some audio I got from, well, it was on YouTube. I have an interesting client in Pakistan, and we'll stay away from the political stuff on this, but it's an English language movie channel in Pakistan, and they sent me something that had to be pronounced a certain way. And I'm like, how do I pronounce this? Because I said it wrong in one way. And they said, well, we'll send you this thing on YouTube. And I started watching it. And then I realized that how do people in Pakistan hear anything on their TV? This is the promo that they sent me.
All right, here it is.
Film Asia strategically designed segments offer viewers a steady diet of solid hits. उन किरदारों और कहानियों का सफर जो सिर्फ एक बार जन्म लेती हैं, द एंटरटेनमेंट एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ लाइफ टाइम। सिल्वर स्क्रीन पर अनमिट नकुश छोड़ने वाली फिल्में, पैशन, इंस्पायरेशन एंड ग्लोरियस मोमेंट्स। हर इतवार की रात संडे एक्सक्लूसिव में सिर्फ फिल्म एशिया पर।
I think he's swallowing the microphone.
I think he is too. They're probably using a dynamic mic in probably some little crowded room, and they're adding their voice, which is why they hired me in a professional home studio here in in my basement. And I can't wait to see what my promo looks like with the dancing girls and the stuff. It's amazing. What a great business we're in that we get to deal with people all over the world. But watching the promos that they sent me, like, my God, what culture shock. It's like watching on another planet. It's fascinating.
Well, what's even more fascinating, Dan, is watching your video feed from Skype. For the last 5-10 seconds, it basically played everything you did in the last 5 seconds in fast forward. So you were like, until it caught up.
So am I back in sync now?
Yeah, I mean, the audio has been perfect the entire show, but the video goes completely out of sync. It's totally nuts. Folks, this is show number 7, and every single show, I think we've had some completely bizarre glitch, and this has been the glitch of the show. It's the bizarre Skype video sync problem show. So I think this is why I'm not telling anybody how we do the show yet, because every week I'm changing, fixing, or doing something new to try to fix these problems. So anywho, but that was a great bad audio, actually. I love the music, actually. I actually have worked for a couple Indian and Middle Eastern. I'm not Middle Eastern. I'm sorry. Indian subcontinental culture projects and live sound, and it's really fun to do. The energy is incredible. But they seem to get the audio wrong so often, and I don't understand why. I don't know if it's they just don't have somebody in the country or in the city to teach audio engineering. I'm not sure what it is, but they get it wrong way more often than they get it right. I can never get that.
Well, maybe we need to get them to tune into our show.
Exactly. We need an outreach or something, and we need to have an outreach to improve audio in overseas, I think we could do it.
Yeah, you should hear some of the stuff we get out of Europe. They got a totally different way of looking at things there.
They do.
They sound wonderful, but it's just very, very different. We have a different way of looking at things.
Exactly.
Well, what else were you going to do tonight? You joined us, and this is great. And we're glad that you joined us here on East West Audio Body Shop. We'll be back next week. Again, if you have a question, doesn't have to necessarily be a home studio question. Now, Anna asked that great question about mouth clicks. It turned out to be a studio question.
It was a good question.
It was an excellent question, and it wasn't about a traveling studio. What do you people do on vacation? Gee whiz, I like to hang out by the pool. I don't want to be doing voiceover. But anyway, if you have a question, just email us right here at ewabshop. That's EWABSHOP at gmail.com. We want to hear from you, and we want to answer your questions, and we want you to come back next week, and the week after that, and the week after that. So that's all for this week. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we're
East-West Audio Body Shop.
Body Shop.
Thanks,
Have
everybody.
a great